Title: The Job That Changed Everything. They say every man has a breaking point, a moment when the darkness he's embraced for so long starts to crumble. For me, that moment came wrapped in innocence. My name is Adrian Lee. I'm a 30-year-old Asian American, and for the past decade, I've made a living doing jobs most people wouldn't dare whisper about. No, I'm not a hitman, ever crossed that line. But I was the guy rich people called when they needed dirty work done without getting their own hands messy. Bribery, smuggling, blackmail, you name it. I always told myself it was just business, no emotional attachments, no guilt. That was until one job shattered my carefully constructed detachment and made me question everything. It was a cold December morning when I received the call. The client didn't give a name, just a voice, calm, cold, professional. She offered me more money than I'd ever seen for a single job. The task? Simple on the surface: kidnap a child and deliver her to an undisclosed location. No questions asked. Now, I've done some shady things, but children were always my line in the sand. I had rules, thin as they were, and this crossed them. But the amount she offered could set me up for life. I told myself it was just another job, that the kid would probably be fine. Maybe it was a custody dispute or some rich family drama. I convinced myself of every lie I needed to sleep that night. The next morning, I drove to the address she'd given me. A modest apartment in a rundown neighborhood, peeling paint and rusty mailboxes. The target was a little girl named Emily, barely 3 years old, living with her single mother. I parked across the street, watching the window where a small flickering nightlight glowed even in daylight. My hands trembled as I lit a cigarette, something I hadn't done in years. I watched for hours, trying to steel myself. The mother left around noon, probably for work. That was my window. I approached the door, picking the lock with practiced ease. The apartment was small, filled with the faint scent of baby powder and cheap detergent. Toys were scattered on the floor. And in the corner, Emily sat, cradling a stuffed bunny, her wide, innocent eyes meeting mine. I froze. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just looked at me. Curiosity in her gaze where fear should have been. In that fleeting moment, her innocent eyes pierced through the armor I'd built over years of deceit and darkness. My breath hitched, and a wave of conflicting emotions crashed over my guilt, regret, and something I hadn't felt in a long time: shame. I was supposed to be the predator, the one in control, yet I felt exposed, fragile, like a child caught stealing. Her trust, unspoken and pure, was a dagger to my conscience, cutting deeper than any threat or weapon ever had. Something inside me cracked. I'd done terrible things, but this was different. This was pure, untouched by the darkness I lived in. "Hey there," I whispered, kneeling down. I'm here to take you on a little trip." She tilted her head, clutching her bunny tighter. I picked her up gently, her tiny arms wrapping around my neck without hesitation. As I carried her to my car, every step felt heavier than the last. My heart pounded. Not from fear of getting caught, but from something unfamiliar: guilt. Driving to the drop-off point, I kept glancing at her through the rearview mirror. She hummed softly, playing with her bunny, unaware of what was happening. The woman on the phone had instructed me to leave Emily in an abandoned cabin deep in the woods. No one would find her in time if something went wrong. I couldn't do it. Halfway there, I pulled over, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I stared at Emily, tears blurring my vision. She looked back, offering me the bunny with a smile. That broke me. I stared at my phone for what felt like hours, my thumb hovering over the screen. Every rational part of me screamed to finish the job, take the money, and disappear. But then I'd glance at the rearview mirror, at Emily's tiny face lit by the soft glow of her bunny's worn-out fur. My chest tightened with a suffocating weight I'd never known it. Wasn't fear of getting caught. It was fear of what I'd become. I thought about my own childhood, about the fleeting moments of innocence I'd buried under years of lies and crime. Was this who I wanted to be forever? A man who traded souls for cash? My heart raced, battling against the cold logic that had guided me for years. The image of Emily smiling at me, offering her bunny like it was the most precious thing in the world, played over and over in my mind, a haunting loop I couldn't escape. With trembling fingers, I finally pressed the call button. The line rang once, twice, then connected. "I can't do it," I whispered, my voice shaking, raw with a guilt I could no longer ignore. Her response was cold, devoid of humanity. "You've already done it, Adrian. Finish the job or you'll regret it." I hung up and made a decision that would change my life. I drove to the nearest police station, walked in with Emily in my arms, and confessed everything. They arrested me on the spot. I didn't care. I deserved it. But Emily was safe. In prison, I found something unexpected: peace. It wasn't immediate, nor was it easy. At first, the cold concrete walls felt like the physical manifestation of every mistake I'd ever made. The echoes of my past decisions haunted me in the silence of my cell. But over time, amidst the monotonous routine, I found clarity. Mornings started early, with nothing but the harsh buzz of alarms and the shuffling of feet. The absence of distractions forced me to confront myself. No more excuses, no more justifications. I began to write, pouring my regrets, fears, and reflections onto paper. Each word was a step toward understanding who I had become and who I wanted to be. Conversations with other inmates revealed stories far more tragic than mine, yet I saw fragments of myself in each of them, lost souls, clinging to whatever scraps of hope remained. Surprisingly, it was in these shared vulnerabilities that I found a sense of belonging, a community bound not by crimes, but by the yearning for redemption. I spent hours in the prison library, devouring books on philosophy, human nature, and even religion. The words of people who had never known me spoke louder than the life I'd led outside. Slowly, the anger I harbored toward myself began to dissolve, replaced by a quiet acceptance. Peace wasn't the absence of punishment. It was the presence of purpose. I realized that while I couldn't change the past, I could influence the future, even from behind bars. My story became a cautionary tale, shared with anyone willing to listen, a testament to the fact that even the most broken lives could find meaning again. I started writing, sharing my story, hoping it might prevent someone else from crossing the line I did. I lost my freedom, but in saving Emily, I found a part of my soul I thought was long gone. Sometimes, the darkest moments lead to the brightest awakenings. And for me, that job wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Years passed, and my story spread beyond the prison walls. Journalists came, intrigued by the man who turned himself in after living a life in the shadows. Some painted me as a villain, others as a tragic figure seeking redemption. But I didn't care about the labels. The only thing that mattered was that Emily was safe. The days in prison had blended into a monotonous rhythm, each one indistinguishable from the last. But then, something unexpected broke the cycle. A letter. It was handed to me during mail call, its envelope plain and unassuming, yet it felt heavier than anything I'd ever held. My fingers trembled slightly as I turned it over, tracing the neat, careful handwriting on the front. I hesitated, my heart pounding in a way it hadn't for years. Who would write to me? A man with no family, no friends, left untouched by the wreckage I'd caused. The paper felt warm against my palm, as if it carried more than words, as if it held a piece of a life I thought I'd lost forever. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I unfolded it. It read, asterisk, "Dear Adrian, I don't remember much about that day, but my mom told me everything. She said you saved me. I wanted to thank you. I'm 10 now. I love to draw, and I have a bunny just like the one I had back then. I named her Hope, because that's what you gave me. Thank you, Emily." I held the letter for hours, rereading it until the words blurred with tears. In that moment, I realized redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about what you do with the present. I may have started as a man lost in darkness, but Emily was the light that showed me the way out.